With Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out soon, I thought it was the perfect time to make some enemies. I mean to rank every Pokemon starter in existence, and also rank the new ones coming out and give some predictions about what we hope won't happen. But before we get into all of that, I want to say quickly, this is just my opinion, okay? It doesn't mean that I'm wrong when I rank something in a certain place. It actually means that you're wrong and that I'm right. Let's get into it. Starters means starting at the start, right? So, Bulbasaur. I gotta be honest with you guys, I do love Bulbasaur, but the people who pick Bulbasaur are the people who need a grocery list to go shopping, or the kind of people who use seatbelts in cars. Bulbasaur is safe, he's reliable, and if you pick him in the first gen, you're gonna have no problems getting through Brock and Misty with ease, right? It makes the game a little bit easy. But let's be real, Bulbasaur's a little bit Bulbaboring, alright? He's not the kind of guy you pick up at the club. We keep him in the friend zone, we call him to go to the movies, and if we post a photo of him on Instagram, we're saying, "Oh, Bulbasaur, you're such a good friend." Essentially, what I'm trying to say is, Bulbasaur, we all like him, but I wouldn't f him. So, rank B. Next up, Charmander. Okay, so hear me out about Charmander. This might be a bit of a hot take, but Charmander really is the one you pick if you want a little bit of a challenge at the start of Gen 1. He doesn't do too great against Brock, and he definitely isn't doing too good against Misty. But he's also the one that you pick if you're 12 years old and think fire is edgy and edgy is cool. That said, I do think he's cute, and I think his evolutions are really cool. The only problem with Charmander, and you all have to agree with this, is that Charizard is so overrated now and so overused. Like, let's be entirely real here, guys. Charizard is so overused that in Sword and Shield, the champion's main Pokemon wasn't even from his region. But look, I do get it. Charizard is cool. Dragons are cool. Fire is cool. And it appeals to both nostalgia and to new Pokemon fans. So I will let it slide. However, I gotta say, Charmander, going in rank C. I'm sorry, all right? He's just too much Charmander. Now, if we're talking the best picks for Gen 1, it has to be Squirtle. You can't argue with that. And you're probably thinking, oh yeah, I can kind of agree, he's cool. But you're forgetting some simple facts. One, Squirtle has his own street gang, he wears sunglasses, and he turned into a firefighter. That's right, he literally became a free public servant. He doesn't get paid to put those fires out. He does it out of the kindness of his own heart. And that is badass. Squirtle goes in rank A. This next one's really weird because I feel like people will argue that Pikachu isn't a starter, but Let's Go Pikachu exists, and of course, we've got Pokemon Yellow, so I'm going to include him either way. Personally, I feel like everyone and their grandma can pick Pikachu up out of a police lineup. Legitimately, there's not a single person on the planet who can't look at a Pikachu and either say, that's a Pikachu, or that's a Pokemon at the very least. He's a fun starter, he's a cool brand mascot, but he doesn't get the A tier or the God tier. He'll have to sit in B tier for one simple fact. Bring back Fat Pikachu, okay? I don't want this sleek electric mouse. I want the friend-shaped, huggable Pikachu from back in the day. He's so much better, okay? I'm sorry. Rank B. Now, we're moving into Gen 2, and that is one of my favorite generations of all time. Arguably, it is the generation that I played the most as a kid and have the most nostalgia for, which is why this is going to be very hard for some of you to hear. Chikorita is, well, it's a no, all right? Just stop picking him. He's aggressively weak, he's boring, he evolves into a boring series, and he's really just a worse Bulbasaur. But the most egregious part, and the reason he gets the no category, isn't the fact that he's weak or that he's boring. It's actually because he doesn't look tasty. Like, you look at the other ones, you go, oh yeah, I'd eat a Squirtle. Turtles kind of look like they could taste good. Oh yeah, I could probably chop up a Bulbasaur and he'd be good, you know, sauteed on the side. But when you look at Chikorita, you just think to yourself, damn, I bet if you boiled that, it'd be as bland as a Brussels sprout. And I just can't do it. So no, just no. Next up, Cyndaquil. I feel like Cyndaquil is probably one of the coolest, cutest, but also weirdly most underrated starters. I feel like if you go out there and you started asking people, hey, who's your favorite starter? You get a few people who say Cyndaquil. I get that. But I feel like the large majority of people forget he exists. Until at least Legends of Arceus came out and people were like, oh yeah, Cyndaquil, I really like that Pokemon. His evolution line is awesome, and I actually think he has a really unique design. Like, if you think about Cyndaquil as a Pokemon, it doesn't seem like there are many others like him. So I'm going to say, Cyndaquil, you get a nice, solid B tier. Now, if we're talking about the correct Pokemon to pick in Generation 2, and, well, actually in Generation 1 as well, and to be honest, in every single generation, it has to be Totodile. And I promise I am completely unbiased, but if anyone in the comments says anything about Totodile, I swear to God, don't talk to me or my son ever again. He's the best pick, okay? That's it. Next up, Hoenn, Generation 3. Now, this is one of the ones that I actually started playing properly. I feel like Gen 2, I was just maxing my starter as high as possible and then using no status moves and pumping through everywhere. But when we got to Generation 3, I was actually old enough to play the games properly, and then I met Trico. Trico is odd because he has the perfect balance between being kind of cool and kind of edgy, but he also doesn't appeal to 12-year-olds as much as, say, like Charmander does. And you're probably thinking, well, why? Well, it's because it's a grass starter, and you kind of lose that cool factor when it's a grass starter. They just don't have the oomph, you know? That said, he is constantly pretending to smoke, and that is kind of badass and makes me want to smoke a little bit. So I think with Trico, I'm going to have to say he's a rank B for, well, the peer pressure, to be honest. He makes me feel less cool when I'm around. Look, I love Torchic, okay? I think a Blaziken is a really cool evolution, and generally, I like the design. But we all have to agree that this was the beginning of the end for fire starters, okay? They all started evolving into fire fighting, and to be honest, got really repetitive. And as much as Torchic was the first one to do that, so it's not that big of a deal, I feel like we have to punish him for the sins of his children, okay? Otherwise, what are we gonna do? Just get more of this monstrosity? I don't think so. Therefore, I am sorry, but Torchic is going in the rank C category. And I actually don't feel bad about it. Next up, we're talking about Mudkip. Now, Mudkip is really heavily memed as one of the most beloved Pokemon of all time, which I get it. He is an axolotl, he has a cool typing when he gets to the third evolution, and just generally, he's adorable, right? We all get that. I'm gonna throw it out there. I do love me a Mudkip. I gotta say rank A, because he was my pick, okay? He was my Gen 3 pick. I feel like he was a lot of people's Gen 3 pick, but he's not so overrated that he appears in every single game like a Charizard or a Charmander does. All right, we're up to Gen 4. We're blasting through this. Now, we've got a Turtwig. Hear me out. I know I upset you guys when I said Chikorita was just a worse Bulbasaur, but I might upset you further by saying that Turtwig, he's actually just a better Bulbasaur. He evolves into cooler Pokemon, he has a cooler design, and to be entirely honest, his name sounds a lot like Turd, which I just think is absolutely hilarious. Turtwig is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. He goes right next to the Mudkip in A tier. Look at that happy smile. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. Don't worry. It's okay. You're allowed to be wrong sometimes. All right, next up, we've got Chimchar. Now, Chimchar's kind of cool because I think his design is really unique. Like, there aren't many monkey types in Pokemon, are there? Okay, well, there's a few, but there's not many fire types that are also monkeys, right? Okay, so there's a few of those too, but I'm just trying to say that I really like Chimchar. I think he's a cool Pokemon. I think he's a fun Pokemon. I also think his evolution is badass, despite being firefighting. But mostly, the reason why I'm going to rank him where I rank him is because if I don't rank him highly, I feel like the competitive scene of Pokemon, if they ever see this video, I might be dragged out of my house and beaten with sticks, okay? People are obsessed with Infernape from what I've seen. And look, I know it might be a hot take to say this, but I'm going to give him B tier, even though he does turn into firefighting, okay? I get it, it sounds a bit hypocritical, but I just think he's a cooler Pokemon than Torchic. I know I was just making a joke about Chimchar being unique with the monkeys and the fire types, but at the same time, Piplup actually is kind of unique. There aren't many penguin-type Pokemon, especially adorable ones like this, that evolve into cool typings when they get to their final stage. But here's the thing, none of that actually matters, and the main reason why I'm ranking Piplup where I've decided to is because Piplup Step exists, and it is an absolute bop, and everyone should be listening to it 24/7. Rank B. I know I've ranked a lot of things in B tier here, but I promise you, it's gonna start filling out those lower tiers as well very soon. Why? Well, next up, we've got Snivy. Now, I'm not gonna turn Snivy on the screen, because I have a theory that if I don't show you what Snivy looks like, it's gonna take you a little bit to even remember what Pokemon Snivy is. Take a second, think, which one is Snivy? Which one is Snivy? Snivy is this one. That's right. I bet you didn't even remember it. Snivy is so meh. It is a posh, snobby worm that is the epitome of the meme. It's evolving, but backwards. Literally, he starts with arms and legs, he loses the arms and legs and evolves into an even more posh worm, the kind of worm that not only looks down on you and goes to private school, but probably bullies you for being a Weasley. So I'm sorry, Snivy, you're one of the first one to go into rank D, and I have no regrets for it. Next up is Tepig. Now, Tepig is adorable. He's a literal flaming teacup pig, which sounds amazing, and to be honest, like a bit of a recipe for disaster, because if you didn't know, teacup pigs aren't a real thing. They're just baby pigs that continue to grow. So if you're thinking, what does he grow into? He grows into firefighting again. That's right, he stands up on his hind legs and starts trying to be like people. But the thing that you don't understand, Tepig, is even people don't want to be people. I'm sorry, I've got to say, Tepig rank C with the other fire types, because at the end of the day, Just stay on 4 legs. Stay as a monster, okay? Don't do taxes. Next up is Oshawott. Now, Oshawott is awesome. He's cool. He's adorable. But there is so much wasted potential, okay? Not only does he start adorable, but then he evolves into what looks like a badass, like a samurai in training. This is one of the few times where I was like, okay, stay on 2 legs. Stay on 2 legs. I want a water samurai as my final evolution. But no. He decides he wants to go down to 4 legs, and it just makes no sense. I'm going to say right now that Oshawott goes down to rank D for just so much lost potential in that final evolution. And look, I get it. I know I said I don't want them to stand on 2 legs, but this is an exception to that. It's kind of like watching Dragonair evolve into Dragonite and being a little bit let down that you didn't get a giant badass dragon, and instead you just got this big huggable dumpy guy who's like, hello everybody. You know what I mean? Whereas the opposite happens where you see Magikarp turn into Gyarados and you're like, now that's badass. It's the kind of letdown feeling of an evolution that just doesn't meet your standards of what you expected. Next up, we got Chespin. I feel like Chespin is another one of those Pokemon where if I said the words Chespin, you'd be like, oh shit, which one? Oh god, oh, which one's he again? Oh god, oh, which one is he? But here's the thing, Game Freak really thought we wouldn't notice with this one. This is like when a kid gets to school and they're like, I haven't done my homework. I have to quickly throw it together now, last minute. And they look at their friend, they're like, quick, I need a grass starter. Okay, what about a grass type that's also a squirrel? Have we done anything like that before? No, that's awesome. Now, what does he evolve into? Okay, I saw a photo this morning of a baby in an oversized snow jacket. So what if we just made him evolve into a baby in an oversized snow jacket, and then from there, we can just evolve him into what looks like an old man with a really big hunchback? I have no idea what you're talking about right now, but I love it. And for that reason, I'm sorry, but I gotta put Chespin down in rank D. I'm just not a fan. Next up is Fennekin. Now, Fennekin is a literal fennec fox that is on fire, which is both badass, adorable, and just kind of unique and cool, to be honest. Like, if we look through the rest of these Pokemon, there aren't any, like, fox types or fox stylings. It's all, like, Squirtles and monsters and things. So foxes, kind of unique. I'm into it. But he doesn't just stay an adorable fox. No, he then goes on 2 legs, which I am not a fan of, until you realize he picks up a branch, starts reading people's minds because he becomes fire psychic, and just starts whooping ass with it. I think it's a really cool design. I really like the look of it all. I'm kind of going between rank A and B here. I'm gonna have to say B though, because I don't think he's as cool as Squirtle or Turtwig or Mudkip. So rank B, but I do love him. Next up is Froakie. Now, Froakie, I gotta say, guys, he's pretty unique. Who would have thought of combining the idea of a frog and a water type to get Froakie? It's like so not predictable, and it's never been done before, right? Look, he starts adorable, he becomes pretty badass with Greninja, but I will say, I do feel like Greninja is a little bit overrated. Like, you see him so often. I get it though, ninjas are cool. I'm really torn between rank B and rank C, but I think I'm gonna go with rank C, just because Water and Frog isn't overly unique, and Greninja, while it's cool, it's just a little bit overhyped, a little bit overused for me personally. Alright? Next generation, we're looking at Rowlet. He is an adorable little round boy in a bow tie, and when he evolves, his bow tie becomes a bow and arrow. If you don't think that is awesome for a design and also cool because he's grass flying, then I don't know what you're smoking, because he has to go in rank A, okay? Just such a cool Pokemon while also being adorable. Okay, next up, Next up, we've got Poplio. Now, I have to be entirely honest, it may be a spoiler, but for a video that I'm doing soon, I've been generating AI Pokemon, and I literally generated this exact Pokemon. I'm onto you, Game Freak. I figured it out. You guys just go on these AI generation websites that people have created. You type in things like water seal, and you get Poplio. That's why Poplio, I feel like we need to like get him his own rank where it says like an AI made this Pokemon. But I'm too lazy to do that, so instead I'm just gonna put him in D tier for now, even though I do think he's kind of cute. Now we're on Sword and Shield, which I think might be the most heavily criticized generation of starters of all time, which I think is honestly kind of fair. And so first up in this gen, we've got Grookey. Now, Grookey is just a monkey. Like, he's a literal monkey. And the stick he uses isn't some fancy stick. It's not Vine Whip or Razor Leaf. It's literally just he picks up a stick one day and starts using it to poke Pokemon in the eyes. That's his whole thing. And you might be thinking, oh, that's a little bit boring, but then you have to remember the fact that when he evolves into his final form, he grows a mullet, joins a rock and roll band, and becomes a punk rock drummer, which I kind of think is badass, and so therefore Grookey, I'm going to say rank B. He's also probably one of the best of this generation. Next up, we have Scorbunny. Now, this is probably what's going to get me the most hate. I don't want to judge anyone, but you have to admit that Scorbunny is made for two different demographics of Pokemon fan. First, let's be real, it's made for the kids who think, oh, Fluffy Bunny, plays soccer, runs around, he's a mascot, okay? And then the second one, well, they're furries. They're the kind of people who are Googling Gardevoir Rule 34 at night, okay? They're the kind of people who are into Scorbunny. And if we're talking about final evolutions, Scorbunny evolves into pretty much just the most human-looking thing possible. I'm sorry, I gotta put him in rank D. I'm really, really not a fan of his design. It's just not for me. Now, the final starter for Sword and Shield is Sobble. Now, I'm really sorry to say this, but Sobble, yeah, you're gonna be crying because you get a massive rank C as well. Why? Well, it's because he literally evolves into the Pokemon version of Milady. You can say he's supposed to be a James Bond or a spy as much as you want, but the reality is he's a creepy looking neckbeard, okay? That's just a fact. That's all the starters who have actually been released, but let's go with Scarlet and Violet now and make some predictions, okay? First up, Sprigatito. Sprigatito? Spriggy boy here is a cat. A lot of people have said they're not a fan of Sprigatito purely because of Litten being kind of boring and firefighting, all right? But hear me out, if this cat stays on all fours, doesn't evolve into some sort of humanoid creature with fur, then I think he's going to be pretty cool. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say I think Sprig Boy needs to go into B tier, but I will move him lower if he stands up on two legs and becomes a human. All right, that's my warning to you, Sprig. Next up is Fuecoco. Now, Fuecoco might be the coolest and most unique design of all of Gen 3. He's called Fuecoco because Fue is fire in Spanish, and I think it's cocodrilo is what it means to say crocodile in Spanish. So Fuecoco. That's cool, but also not just that, he's literally a chili pepper. Like, if you look at his body, that is a stalk on top of it, and he's shaped like a chili pepper. He looks adorable. I gotta throw it out there. I'm a massive fan of him. If his evolution is cool, then he might go down in the history books of one of the fans' favorite starters of all time. And that's why I'm going to put him in rank A personally. Next up, we've got Quaxly. Now, Quaxly's received a lot of criticism, and people have been saying he's just boring because he's a water and flying type. But I kind of really like him. He looks like a Spanish explorer with that little hat. And if he ends up with a sword or even with a helmet, then I'm going to kind of be all about that weirdly. And I know that sounds hypocritical because I've said earlier that I don't like when our starters become humanoids. But I think he's cute. I think he's cool. I think he has a lot of potential. Please, Game Freak, don't mess this up. He's going in rank A. All right? Just for now, he's going in rank A. I really like him. And that is all of the rankings. Now, do I think that this is actually where they should be ranked? Yes, I do. But are those the real reasons why I think it? Well, yeah, actually, that is the case. Absolutely. I wouldn't fuck a Bulbasaur, so that's why he's rank B. That said, if this video made you feel anything at all, even if it's a little bit annoyed, then consider liking it. I really appreciate it. Comment down below why I'm wrong or who your favorite starter is. And of course, if you want to see my girlfriend who's never played Pokemon try and guess Pokemon names, then click right here. And if you want to see me verse a Pokemon Master and race for Pink Slips, aka a shiny Pokemon, then click right here. I'm really proud of this video in particular. I'll see you guys next week.